My name is Isla White. I am 25 years old. I was sitting on the worn couch in my parents' living room in Orlando, Florida, the humid air thick even with the AC humming, when my mom leaned forward and fixed me with that sharp stare she reserved just for me. Isla, you're being selfish again. Jordan needs that money for rent, and you're sitting on your savings like some miser while your sister struggles. She snapped, her voice laced with the contempt I'd heard my whole life, as if I were the problem for not handing over everything I had. My dad just nodded along from his armchair, not saying a word, while Jordan shifted uncomfortably beside her husband John, but didn't correct our mom. I felt my stomach twist, the familiar ache of being the one always expected to give. But this time, something in me hardened. I wasn't going to let her twist the knife deeper without pushing back. It wasn't the first time my mom had cornered me like this, demanding I bail out Jordan. But that afternoon felt like the breaking point. The house smelled like the citrus candles my mom loved, the kind that made everything feel falsely fresh, while the tension simmered underneath. Have you ever had a parent who just seemed to resent your existence no matter what you did? I'd love to hear if anyone's dealt with something similar. Drop a comment below. Growing up in Orlando, our family looked picture perfect from the outside. A modest ranch-style home in a quiet suburb near Lake Eola, weekend trips to the theme parks when we could afford it, and holidays filled with barbecues under the palm trees. But inside it was clear from early on that I was the afterthought. Jordan, my older sister by 5 years, was the golden child, tall, outgoing, with that effortless charm that made everyone adore her. My mom doted on her, endlessly praising her straight A's, her soccer trophies, even the way she styled her hair. Jordan's going places, my mom would say at family gatherings, her eyes lighting up. Me, I was the quiet one, the sensitive kid who preferred books and drawing over sports, and my mom never let me forget how disappointing that was. I remember one Christmas when I was about 8, the humid Florida winter making the lights on our tree droop a little. My mom had spent weeks hyping up the gifts, and when we unwrapped them, Jordan got a brand new bike, shiny and red, while I got a hand-me-down puzzle set from the thrift store. Isla, you don't need fancy things, you're not as active as your sister, my mom said dismissively when I asked why, her tone implying I should be grateful for scraps. My dad, always the peacemaker, just muttered something about budgets being tight from his job as a mechanic, but he never challenged her. That pattern stuck. Jordan got the new clothes, the extra lessons, the attention, while I was expected to make do and not complain. It taught me early that in our family, love was conditional, and I was always on the losing end. As we got older, the favoritism only deepened. By high school, Jordan was the star cheerleader, homecoming queen, everything my mom had dreamed of being herself back in her day. My mom would drive her to practices, host parties for her friends, and brag about her to anyone who listened. I, on the other hand, worked part-time at a local cafe after school to save for college, since my mom made it clear they couldn't waste money on me when Jordan needed it for her extracurriculars. "You're smarter, Isla, you'll figure it out," she'd say, but it felt like code for, "You're not worth the investment." I pushed through, graduating with honors and landing a scholarship to nursing school at the University of Central Florida. Becoming a registered nurse at a busy Orlando hospital was my way out, my proof that I could build something without her approval. But even as an adult, the dynamic didn't change. After college, I rented a small apartment near work. Nothing fancy but mine, a one-bedroom in a complex with a pool I never used, surrounded by the constant buzz of tourists heading to Disney. Jordan, meanwhile, married John right out of community college. He was charming at first, a salesman with big dreams, but it quickly became clear he had a knack for bad decisions. They moved into a nicer place than they could afford, and that's when the calls started. Not from Jordan, but from my mom, always framing it as a family crisis. "Isla, your sister's car broke down. Can you spot her a few hundred? She's family after all." I'd wire the money thinking it was a one-off, but it never was. Over the years, those one-offs added up. I'd give for their wedding expenses, then for medical bills when Jordan had a minor surgery, then for emergency repairs on their house. My mom was always the one initiating calling me at work during my shifts, her voice urgent and accusatory if I hesitated. "Don't you care about your sister? After everything we've done for you?" She'd demand, as if raising me was some grand sacrifice. My dad would get on the line sometimes, echoing her. But it was my mom's words that cut deepest. She made me feel like refusing meant I was the villain. I was pulling double shifts at the hospital, dealing with exhausted patients and endless paperwork just to keep my head above water. But I kept giving because that's what daughters do, right? Or at least, that's what my mom drilled into me. About 2 years ago, things escalated in a way I couldn't ignore. It was a sweltering summer evening, the kind where the Orlando heat clings to your skin even after sunset. I'd stopped by my parents' house for what was supposed to be a casual visit. My mom had invited me over, saying she missed me, but I should have known better. As soon as I walked in, she steered me to the kitchen table where Jordan and John were already seated, looking expectant. "Isla, we need to talk." My mom started, her tone sharp, not waiting for me to even sit down. "Jordan's in a bind with some bills, and you're the only one who can help. Don't make this difficult." She slid a piece of paper across the table with an amount scribbled on it: $2,000. I stared at it, my heart pounding from a long day at the hospital where I'd just lost a patient. "What happened this time?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. Jordan mumbled something about unexpected expenses, but my mom jumped in, her eyes narrowing. "Does it matter? She's your sister, and you're doing well for yourself. Nursing pays decent, doesn't it? Stop being so stingy." John chimed in, then his smile too slick, saying how grateful they'd be, but it was my mom's insistence that made me cave. I transferred the money that night, but as I drove home, the resentment built. Why was it always me? Why did my mom act like I owed them for existing? The requests kept coming, each one bigger, each one pushed by my mom. She'd call me late at night after my shifts, her voice dripping with disappointment if I questioned anything. "Isla, you're letting your family down again." Jordan wouldn't hesitate if it were you. But I knew that wasn't true. Jordan had never offered help when I struggled through nursing school, scraping by on ramen and loans. My health started suffering, insomnia from the stress migraines that made shifts hell. One night, after a particularly grueling day treating flu patients during a spike, my mom texted, "Jordan needs help with rent. Send 500 by tomorrow or they'll be evicted. Don't disappoint me." I stared at the message, my hands shaking, and for the first time I didn't respond. That silence lasted 2 weeks. At first it was agony. I'd check my phone constantly, expecting the guilt trips, but when nothing came, a strange peace settled in. I focused on work, picking up extra hours at the hospital to build my savings back up. Orlando's tourist season was in full swing, meaning more accidents and illnesses, but the routine grounded me. I even started volunteering at a free clinic on weekends, helping uninsured families, mostly locals, priced out by the city's growth. It felt good to give without strings, to see genuine gratitude instead of demands. Then in the third week, my phone rang during my lunch break. It was my mom, her voice frantic. "Isla, finally, Jordan and John are in trouble with the mortgage payment. We need $3,000 urgently." "No, hello. No, how are you?" I took a deep breath, remembering the quiet I'd enjoyed. "Mom, I can't keep doing this. When was the last time anyone asked how I'm doing?" She paused, then snapped, "This isn't about you. Your sister's family could lose their home. Are you really that heartless?" The words stung, but I held firm. "I'm tired of being your backup plan. Figure it out without me." I hung up, my heart racing, but for the first time it felt like reclaiming power. The backlash was immediate. Texts flooded in from my mom. "How dare you abandon us after all I've sacrificed for you?" Jordan sent guilt trips. But it was my mom's messages that were vicious, calling me ungrateful and selfish. I turned off my phone and went back to work, focusing on a young patient with a broken arm. That night, I met up with a coworker, Lisa, for coffee. She'd become a friend over shared shifts. We sat at a cafe near Lake Eola, watching joggers pass, and I vented about the family drama. My aunt did the same to my mom, Lisa said, sipping her latte. Cut her off, and it forced change. It's hard, but necessary. Her words stuck with me as I drove home, the city lights reflecting off the water. By the end of the month, I'd changed, sleeping better, feeling less drained. Then one humid afternoon, my phone buzzed again. It was Jordan, but I suspected my mom was behind it. Isla pleas were desperate. I didn't answer. Instead, I started documenting everything, pulling up my bank app to tally what I'd given over the years. The numbers shocked me: over $60,000 in transfers, all labeled as family help. It was like seeing a wound I'd ignored, bleeding me dry while I pretended it was fine. A few days later, Chuck, a neighbor in my apartment complex, a retired electrician with a kind smile, noticed me looking stressed while fixing my AC unit. "You okay, kid?" he asked. I opened up a bit and he shared his own story of a manipulative relative. "Protect yourself first," he advised over iced tea on his balcony. It was the push I needed. The next morning, I called a financial advisor recommended by a hospital colleague, and we reviewed my accounts. "Remove any shared access," she said firmly. "This is exploitation." I did it that day, flagging everything. The escalation hit like a Florida thunderstorm. 5 days after the bank notifications went out, there was pounding on my door. I peeked through the peephole, my mom, Jordan, and John. I opened it slightly, keeping the chain on. My mom shoved forward first, her face twisted. "Isla, what have you done? You removed us from your accounts. You're cutting off your own family." Her voice was loud enough for neighbors to hear, shaming me publicly. Jordan looked tired, but my mom kept pushing. "We're about to lose everything because of your selfishness. Let us in so we can talk sense into you." I stood there, the door chain taut, as my mom's words echoed down the hallway. "Isla, you're destroying this family. Open this door right now," she demanded, her fist banging again, drawing stares from a couple passing by with their dog. John tried to play mediator, saying we could sort it out calmly, but my mom cut him off, her eyes blazing at me. "After everything I've done, raising you alone half the time while your dad worked overtime, this is how you repay me, by locking us out like criminals?" I kept my voice steady, drawing on the calm I used with agitated patients at the hospital. "Mom, there's nothing to discuss. I've given enough. It's time you all handle your own problems." Her face flushed redder than the Florida sunsets, and she leaned in closer to the crack in the door. "You think you're better than us now with your fancy nursing job? Jordan's the one who deserves help. She's always been the responsible one, not you with your selfish ways." Jordan muttered something about it being a misunderstanding, but my mom wasn't having it. She was the one driving the attack, making sure I felt every bit of her disdain. They left after a few more minutes of yelling, my mom storming off with a final jab. "You'll regret this. Isla family doesn't turn their back like you do." I closed the door, my knees weak, and slid down against it. The apartment felt smaller, the walls closing in with the weight of her words. That night, I barely slept, replaying her contempt in my head, wondering if I was the monster she painted me as. But deep down, I knew it was her pattern, always starting the fights, always making me the scapegoat while propping up Jordan. The harassment didn't stop there. Over the next week, my mom bombarded me with voicemails, each one more cutting than the last. "Ha, Isla, how can you sleep at night knowing your sister's struggling because of you?" She'd say, her voice trembling with feigned hurt, but I could hear the underlying anger. She'd call during my shifts, forcing me to silence my phone mid-rounds, distracting me from patients who actually needed care. One message stood out: "I raised you to be better than this. Jordan would never abandon us. You're a disappointment, just like always." It hit like a slap, reminding me of all the times she'd compared us, always finding me lacking. Jordan got in on it too, but it felt orchestrated by my mom. She'd text please, like, "Please sis, mom's right. We're family." But when I didn't budge, the tone shifted to accusations. John even emailed me a long rant about responsibility. But again, my mom's fingerprints were all over it. She'd always been the puppet master pulling strings to keep the pressure on. My dad called once, his voice hesitant. Your mom's upset Isla. Maybe just help a little. But he hung up when I asked why he never stood up for me. The stress started manifesting physically. During a night shift at the hospital, I had a panic attack in the break room, heart racing, vision blurring after checking a voicemail from my mom demanding I fix this mess. A colleague found me and talked me down, suggesting therapy. Family can be toxic, she said gently. I booked an appointment the next day with a counselor through my work's EAP program, a quiet office in downtown Orlando overlooking the swan boats on the lake. In our first session, I poured out the years of favoritism, how my mom had always initiated the put-downs, making me feel invisible, unless I was useful. She's the one who starts it every time, I told the therapist, tears streaming. Like I'm not her real daughter. We unpacked how her deep-seated resentment, maybe from her own unfulfilled dreams, had shaped everything, turning Jordan into her proxy and me into the outlet for her frustrations. It was a relief to name it, but the sessions also highlighted the toll my savings depleted, my relationships strained. I'd even pushed away a potential boyfriend last year because I was too exhausted from family drama to date. A couple weeks later, the manipulation took a new turn. It was a rainy Saturday, the kind where Orlando's skies open up without warning. I got a letter in the mail, handwritten from my mom, her script shaky for effect. Isla Jordan's health is suffering from the stress. You need to help with $4,000 for her treatments. If you don't, it's on you. No specifics, just vague threats, but it was classic, her starting with sympathy to guilt me. I almost fell for it, my finger hovering over the transfer app. But then I remembered the therapist's words. Boundaries aren't betrayal. I shredded the letter instead. That prompted another visit, this time just my mom and Jordan at my door during a downpour. My mom banged relentlessly, water dripping from her umbrella. Open up, Isla. We're not leaving until you listen, she shouted, her voice carrying over the thunder. When I cracked the door, she launched in. Your sister's sick because of you. Do you want that on your conscience? I've always known you were cold-hearted. Jordan looked pale, adding, please, for mom's sake. But it was my mom's eyes that bored into me, full of that long-standing contempt, as if I'd ruined her life by being born second. I held the chain firm. Mom, what's the diagnosis? Which doctor? She faltered, then snapped. That's not the point. Family helps without questions. But I pressed, and the lies unraveled. There was no real illness, just another ploy. You're lying to manipulate me, I said quietly, her face contorted. How dare you accuse me after I gave you everything? She stormed off, dragging Jordan with her, leaving me shaken but resolute. The pressure mounted at work, too. My mom started calling the hospital switchboard, leaving messages that embarrassed me in front of colleagues. Tell Isla her mother's worried she's abandoning her family. It got so bad that my supervisor pulled me aside, concerned. Handle this, Isla, it can affect patients. That night, over coffee with Lisa and now Chuck, who I'd confided in more, they urged me to get legal advice. This is harassment, Chuck said, his electrician hands gesturing emphatically. I contacted a family law attorney the next morning, a no-nonsense woman named Elena, in a high-rise near the Orange County Courthouse. We met over Zoom first, then in person, where I showed her the messages, the tallies of money given, now up to $65,000 over 5 years. This is financial abuse, Elena said, her voice firm. We'll send a cease and desist. My mom was the main instigator in all the evidence, her texts and calls starting every wave of demands. The letter went out warning of legal action if the harassment continued. Predictably, it ignited a firestorm. 4 days later, an unknown number called. During my therapy session, I ignored it, but the voicemail was from a social worker. Ms. White, we've received a report about your mental health and financial irresponsibility. We need to schedule a visit. My heart sank. It was retaliation, my mom painting me as unstable to discredit me. Elena wasn't surprised. They escalate when cornered. We prepared gathering my medical records, bank statements, even notes from my therapist affirming my stability. The social worker, a kind but thorough woman named Maria, arrived at my apartment a week later, clipboard in hand. "This is routine," she said, but I knew my mom's hand in it, alleging I was hoarding money while neglecting family, implying I needed intervention. I laid out everything, the years of giving, the sudden cutoff, the harassment logs. Elena joined via video, providing context. "My client recognized the exploitation and protected herself," she explained. Maria reviewed it, all her expression shifting from neutral to concerned. After an hour, she nodded. "You're clearly competent, Ms. White. No issues here." But she added, "I'll note the pattern of abuse in my report. It could lead to investigations on their end." Relief flooded me, but it was short-lived. 2 days later, a furious text from my mom. "You think you've won. We're exposing what a horrible daughter you are. Everyone will know. Mum." More messages followed, threats to badmouth me to mutual friends, even hinting at posting online. Jordan called begging me to reconsider, but my mom's venom was the driver. Then came the eviction notice, not for me, but forwarded somehow to my address addressed to Jordan and John. It was certified mail detailing their missed payments on a house they'd overextended on. My mom called immediately after, her voice breaking for the first time. "See what you've done, Isla. Your sister's homeless because you wouldn't help." But I saw through it. The notice wasn't my fault. It was the consequence of their choices, amplified by my mom's refusal to let them face reality. That pushed me to a turning point. Sitting in my apartment, rain pattering against the window, I realized I couldn't keep absorbing her attacks. The next day, I blocked their numbers, a simple act that felt monumental. But as I volunteered at the clinic that weekend, treating a family down on their luck, a nagging doubt crept in. What if my mom's next move destroyed everything I'd built? I didn't have to wait long to find out. A week after blocking their numbers, I was at the hospital wrapping up a shift when my supervisor called me into her office. Her face was serious, and she slid a printed email across the desk. "This came anonymously to HR," she said. It was a rant accusing me of being unstable, neglecting family duties, and even hinting at financial misconduct, like I'd stolen from patients or something absurd. The language screamed my mom, words like selfish and disappointment, peppered throughout, starting with a direct attack on my character. "We have to investigate," my supervisor added, but assured me it was protocol. My stomach dropped, but Elena had prepared me for this. We countered with my records showing the pattern of harassment, and HR quickly dismissed it as baseless. Still, the damage was done, whispers in the break room, colleagues giving me side glances. That night, back in my apartment with the AC fighting the Orlando humidity, I cried for the first time in months. My mom's move had invaded my safe space, her contempt reaching into my career, all because I wouldn't fund their chaos anymore. The final confrontation came 2 weeks later on a clear Sunday morning. I'd just returned from a run around Lake Eola, sweat drying in the breeze, when there was knocking at my door. Through the peephole, I saw my mom standing alone, her posture rigid, a bouquet of cheap grocery store flowers in hand, like some peace offering. I opened the door without the chain ready this time. She thrust the flowers at me, but her eyes were hard. "Isla, we need to talk. Your sister's living in a motel now because of you. How can you live with that? I've always known you were spiteful, but this—" She stepped forward, uninvited, but I blocked the doorway. "Mom, stop. This isn't about Jordan. It's about how you've treated me my whole life, like I'm only good for what I can give." Her face twisted and she launched in, her voice rising. "Treated you. I gave you a home, food, everything, and you repay me by abandoning us. Jordan's the one who makes me proud. You've always been the difficult one, whining about fairness." It was her starting the barbs again, dredging up old resentments, making it clear her dislike ran deep, as if I was a burden she'd tolerated. We argued on the threshold, her words cutting like they always did, dismissing my nursing achievements as just a job, accusing me of jealousy toward Jordan. You've never fit in this family. She spat finally, the core of her hatred laid bare. I felt the weight of years lift as I responded calmly. Maybe I don't want to fit into a family where love means exploitation. I'm done, Mom. No more money, no more contact until you respect my boundaries. She recoiled, then turned nasty. Fine, rot alone then. When you need us, don't come crawling back. She dropped the flowers and left her heels, clicking down the hall. That was the breaking point. I filed for a restraining order the next day with Elena's help. The evidence was overwhelming: logs of calls, texts, the false reports, all initiated by my mom. The judge granted it temporarily, barring her from contact or approaching my work. When served, she exploded. Elena got reports of her bad-mouthing me to relatives, but it backfired. Aunts and uncles I'd barely spoken to reached out, sharing their own stories of her manipulations, how she'd always favored Jordan to live vicariously. The consequences hit them hard. Without my financial crutch, Jordan and John couldn't sustain their lifestyle. Their house foreclosed fully a month later, forcing them into a cramped apartment on the outskirts of Orlando, far from the nice suburbs. John lost his sales job amid the stress. Turns out he'd been dipping into company funds to cover gaps, a scandal that made local news whispers. Jordan had to take a retail position at a mall, something my mom had always deemed beneath her golden child. My dad, caught in the middle, finally spoke up in a mediated call Elena arranged. Shirley's pushed too far this time. He admitted, sounding weary. He started attending therapy himself, but my mom refused, isolating herself in bitterness. As for my mom, the restraining order humiliated her publicly. Neighbors gossiped, and she lost face at her bridge club. She tried one last ploy, sending a letter through a friend. Isla, your sister's breaking under this, help us or live with the guilt. But it was vague, no real apology, just more demands started by her. I returned it unopened, enforcing the boundary. Her life shrank: no more lavish outings funded indirectly by me, just scraping by on my dad's pension and her part-time clerk job. Jordan confided later through a neutral cousin that my mom's constant resentment had poisoned their home too, leading to arguments where Jordan finally called her out. In the months that followed, I built a new life, one without her shadow. Therapy helped me unpack the deep dislike she'd harbored, maybe projecting her own failures onto me, the lesser daughter. I got promoted to charge nurse at the hospital, overseeing shifts with a team that respected me. My savings grew to $30,000, enough for a down payment on a small condo near the lake, with a balcony overlooking the water. I started dating again, a kind paramedic named Alex I'd met at work. Our first date was a picnic under the palms, laughing without the family drama looming. Volunteering at the clinic became a passion. I coordinated shifts, now helping families like the ones I'd treated, building a chosen family. Lisa and Chuck were constants. Weekly coffees turned into group hikes in the nearby state parks where we'd talk about everything but my past. Even my dad reached out sporadically, our calls tentative but healing without my mom's influence. Holidays shifted too. Thanksgiving with friends at a beachside barbecue, Christmas, volunteering at a shelter, filling the void with purpose. Looking back, I learned that family isn't about blood, it's about respect and boundaries. Love shouldn't come with strings, and choosing yourself isn't selfish, it's survival. My mom taught me that through her actions, her deep contempt shaping me into someone stronger. I won't let her back in to hurt or use me again. The restraining order stands, and so do I. What would you do if your mom treated you like this? Share your stories in the comments. I'd love to hear how you've set boundaries.